This is like Oakland Athletics, like Moneyball basketball to me. And not in terms of like an analytics perspective, but really in terms of the players that they have, the collection of guys that they've gotten together. It's a bunch of undervalued guys who are just all better than people think they are. Royce O'Neal has been underrated forever. Grayson Allen is consistently one of the most underrated offensive players in the league. Mark Williams, the Hornets were desperate to basically give this person away. They were like, please, someone, Lakers, just take him. The guy is 24 years old and he's an absolute monster when he plays. He's undervalued due to injury concerns. Dillon Brooks, who has been obviously much maligned throughout his entire career, he's great and he'll absolutely help this team because, again, he fits right in with his shooting and his defense. And then, like you mentioned, Jordan Ott, forward-thinking head coach, the president of basketball operations, Brian Gregory. Is this not the 2002 Oakland Athletics, Geoff? Am I totally off base here? This is Hot Hand Theory. This is a podcast where we talk about the NBA and break things down from an analytical perspective. I'm your co-host XJ. As always, I'm joined by my brilliant co-host Geoff. And Geoff, there's a red hot team that is quietly flying under the radar out in the Western Conference. I haven't heard this team talked about very much in the media. They are an extremely fun team to watch. This team is, over the past couple of weeks, the number one team in the NBA against the spread. So even Vegas has not even caught up with this team. The Phoenix Suns are getting slept on right now. The Phoenix Suns have assembled a sneakily well-built team based on a foundation that, if you haven't listened to the show before, you and I, Geoff, believe here on Hot Hand Theory, and that's the concept of synergy, which is getting a collection of players that can all be the best versions of themselves when they play together. So not independently, but all together at the same time. And in my opinion, when teams have really high expectations and don't perform to the standards of what you might expect based on their talent level, they don't perform corroborate with their actual talent level. That's because guys aren't often able to play at their actual talent level because they're like sacrificing, which, Geoff, is seen as a virtue in the NBA, the idea of sacrificing. But to me, it's best when guys are not we can talk about minutes or something like that, and that's one thing. But you don't want to sacrifice being the best version of yourself. That's not helping your team. And the Suns seem to have internalized some very important lessons from their previous iterations. And then now, very quickly, built one of the most fun, the most synergistic, the most fundamentally sound, and according to all of the data and Vegas and all of these other things, one of the most overperforming teams in the NBA. So there's a million places to start specifically with the Suns. Where do you want to go first with this, Geoff?
It's weird because when you look at just you run through the numbers, you watch the team, I feel like the natural place to start would be Devin Booker. It would just be like Booker's had a very strange career arc. He had those teams where he was by far the best player, but they didn't really amount to much. Then they had the perfect team. We actually talked about it in the first year of our show. Like, they had the perfect team construction. That 2021 and 2022 team that got upset by Dallas in 7 games, that was the best team in the NBA that year. That team should have won the title. It was a perfect team. And for whatever reason, the front office said to itself, like, oh, we need to go away from this. We need to hunt stars. And they went away from the synergy of the team. They basically did the opposite of what you were talking about. And surprise, surprise, Kevin Durant, Bradley Beal, and Devin Booker couldn't be maximized together. That big time shocker there. And they made these trades to get these stars. And I don't know about you, XJ, but this offseason, when we were running through the teams, I was like, man, we're never going to talk about the Suns. Like, it's just never going to happen. They're in such a bad spot. They're just in hell right now. What are they supposed to do? Like, they're giving away picks. They've lost all their players. I don't really know what they're supposed to do. And then they hired a guy by the name of Jordan Ott. And That's where I want to start, because I think he is the number one reason why all the things you said are true and why they're flourishing in a very specific way. And when you look at the type of basketball that they're playing right now, the style that they're playing, where they're shooting their shots, how they're passing the ball, that all falls under deployment. It's not that these guys were never capable of it, but their coach is incentivizing them to do so, and he's pushing certain principles on them that encourage them to do these things and play this way. So, you take a look at guys like Royce O'Neal, guys like Dillon Brooks, Grayson Allen. These are all very, very on their own. They've proven to be good role players in a vacuum. But you put them together, you put them around Devin Booker, a guy who has proven to be a star, and then you encourage them to play the optimal style for each of their skill sets. You're starting to see how a group of guys that was clearly underrated in the offseason, not only can the whole be great, can it match the sum of its parts, it can exceed it. And that's what's happening in Phoenix. And I don't want to give too much credit, but I think a huge share of the credit goes to Jordan Ott and what he's doing.
No, I totally agree with you. I think he's doing tremendous work. I think that kind of young, up-and-coming coach who has been brought up under the tutelage of really innovative, brilliant coaches in the league is an undervalued kind of crop to pick from in terms of finding coaches who can lead a team just that's constructed like this one. It seems to be a perfect fit. And when you were talking about a group of guys who seem to be, undervalued, it's a perfect segue to what I was thinking. I want to run this by you because this was occurring to me as I was watching a recent Suns game, but I feel like this is like Oakland Athletics, like Moneyball, like basketball to me. And it's just, and not in terms of like an analytics perspective, but really in terms of the players that they have, the collection of guys that they've gotten together. It's a bunch of undervalued guys who are just all better than people think they are, who work extremely well together. And you talk through some of the names. Royce O'Neal has been underrated forever, like as a 3-and-D wing with like really good size, who has kind of rotted away on bad teams because they didn't have the requisite kind of foundation for his role to be as valuable as it is. But you put him on the team, you put Grayson Allen on the team. Grayson Allen is consistently one of the most underrated offensive players in the league. This guy shot 40% from three or better every single season of his career besides one, and most recently shot 46 and 43% from three, and he just hit 10 threes in 28 minutes against the Pelicans. Like, this guy is unreal, and he can do more than just shoot, by the way. Like, he can attack the basket and score on the interior, but this is a super underrated offensive player. Mark Williams, who is obviously in and out, the Hornets were desperate to basically give this person away. They were like, please, someone, Lakers, just take him. We'll just give him to you. And they couldn't because of health concerns. And this is a player who I said is one of the most talented centers in the entire NBA and will be a force once he gets right. The guy is 24 years old and he's an absolute monster when he plays. He's undervalued due to injury concerns. Like, classic Moneyball, like what's wrong with him? I don't know if he'll ever be healthy. Guess what? If he is, now you just got to steal a monster down low for a very low price. Colin Giuseppe, I don't even know how to say his name right. I always want to say Giuseppe. I know it's Giuseppe. Undrafted, due to the classic, something that you and I talk about, the classic size and athleticism issue, right, with like college players. But guess what? He works perfectly playing off of Devin Booker. He knows how to play basketball. Sorry, he doesn't have the requisite athleticism and upside and size, but he knows how to do the thing you're trying to draft him to do. He can play great off of Devin Booker and jacking up threes, and he can also run pick and roll with bigs. Like, he is a good playmaker that is developing into being better and better. Dillon Brooks, who has been obviously much maligned throughout his entire career, who Memphis basically had enough of and said, we need to get this guy out of here. And then Houston didn't seem like they were so thrilled with him, although his play was really good. He hasn't even played much, but when he does play, he's great. And he'll absolutely help this team when he's healthy because, again, he fits right in with his shooting and his defense. And then, like you mentioned, Jordan Ott, forward-thinking head coach, the president of basketball operations, Brian Gregory. Those are my combined Billy Bean in this analogy because they don't have an Art Howe character, thankfully. Is this not the 2002 Oakland Athletics, Geoff? Am I totally off base here?
No, I don't think you're off base. And I was doing a little bit of a dive into some of the data as I was watching a couple of their most recent games to prepare for this episode. And, you know, in the Moneyball spirit, there are a lot of things that they're leveraging and they're leaning on the undervalued market per se. And so I was just looking at, you know, the individual stats and stuff popped off. Dillon Brooks, 10 3-point attempts per 75, by far his career high. Grayson Allen, 9.9 3-point attempts per 75. Royce O'Neal, 9.2 3-point attempts per 75. Goodwin, 7.4. Collin, 9.8, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And I was like, man, so are these guys just like chucking contested threes? What is happening here? Like, how is this happening? Because I don't know about you, XJ, but when I think about teams that shoot a lot of threes, I think about two things. One, I think about teams that just have elite shooters who move a lot and they can shoot deep threes. They can shoot contested threes. They can create threes even without anything happening inside the arc. And then I think about teams with elite rim pressure who force those collapses and then spray it out. The Suns don't have either of those. Like, they don't get to the rim very much. They're second to last in the NBA in shots inside 5 feet. Like, they don't even really try to get all the way to the rim. And then I noticed that on drives, they have a 46.2 pass percentage and a 12.4 assist percentage, more than any team in the league in either of those places. And I started to dig a little bit deeper. Second in the NBA in catch and shoot points, second in the NBA in catch and shoot 3-point percentage, and second in the NBA in e-field goal percentage off catch and shoots. They're averaging 1.25 points per possession on spot ups, best in the NBA. And I was just like, how the hell are they doing this? And then it occurred to me watching one of their most recent games. They catch a guy leaning and they pass before you expected them to. If you think about the modern NBA, every single defense is saying, we're going to pack the paint, or almost every single defense is saying, we can pack the paint and then we're athletic enough to recover. We trust our rotations. So we've kind of gotten and established this pattern of the offensive guy isn't going to take a mid-range shot. He's going to try to get to the rim. That's where we will meet him. And then he'll kick it out and we will start the rotations. The Suns don't do that. They catch defenses leaning right when they get inside the arc. And shockingly, this fits Devin Booker's game perfectly because he's not trying to get to the rim. We all know he loves the mid-range shot. So now you've got guys like Grayson Allen spraying from the mid-range. And I want to throw this back to you, XJ, because I find this so interesting. I would wager that no team makes that first kickout pass earlier than the Suns in the entire NBA. It blows my mind that a team can create this many spot-up shots, this many catch-and-shoot threes, just by making that first pass almost the second they get inside the arc. Everybody else is trying to get to the rim. Everybody else is trying to get to floater range to create offensive rebounds. This team somehow looked at Devin Booker and said, okay, like, we know you like your mid-ranges, but you got to make that pass if you catch the defense leaning. They are looking for the defense to be pre-stunting. They are jam-packed with shooting. And the second any single player on the court starts to lean to make some sort of rotation, expecting you to get to the rim, they're making the pass and they're just shooting. It's incredible to watch. And honestly, I don't see many other teams around the league doing it like that.
This is perfect because it's a perfect segue to where I wanted to go next. And maybe it's not the most positive framework in the world, but I have noticed a lot of what you talked about as well. I was looking at some similar data around how infrequently they get to the rim. And I'm curious if you think I'm going to throw it back to you. Actually, I'm curious if you think this is sustainable, and by that I mean I could see this being a sustainable approach potentially, but like in the way that they implement it currently feels slightly gimmicky. And when I say gimmicky, I mean like if you were to put them in a playoff series and a team was to just scout this, I don't know how effective that would be. I think they have to get to the rim more for this to like really, really be effective long term. Like they are so bad at getting to the rim. It's like you said, they're like second last in rim frequency. If you look at cleaning the glasses, location effective field goal percentage, which basically just says if the team shot league average field goal percentage from each location, what would their effective field goal percentage be? It's just purely looking at the spot at which they take these shots, not the players taking those shots. They are 27th in the NBA in location effective field goal percentage. And that doesn't mean you can't be an elite offense, you can't be a great offense, you can't be really, really good, because I think this team it's sustainable that this team is well-rounded and will be good because they're solid both offensively and defensively. And I think their rim attempts will be higher when Mark Williams is able to play, but I don't know if that's super sustainable when we're talking about long-term. We're talking about teams game planning. We're talking about playoffs type dynamics without kind of like more that goes into it. So what are your thoughts there?
So I think I'm going to say something here that you're not going to be a fan of, which is very, if you're new here, is very rare for this show. We actually get yelled at a lot for agreeing too much. So this will be fun. Maybe you won't agree. Maybe we'll get to. You and I, for the last couple seasons, we did it once on air and we've had many conversations about it. We've often talked about what the ideal situation for Jalen Green is. Because Jalen Green's a guy who likes the ball in his hands and he likes to operate from certain spots. And it's rare for a team to it's hard for a team to be good and not already have what Jalen Green provides. It's just like, if you're a good team, the things Jalen Green does well, you probably have somebody who just does them better. And so like this synergy that we're talking about, you don't want Jalen Green doing those things because he's redundant with another player. And then it's like, this other player is sacrificing his peak impact so that Jalen Green can do a worse iteration of it. That's not a good thing. I think the Suns need exactly what Jalen Green brings. And I don't know if you agree with this, I think we saw glimpses of it in that Clippers game a little while back when he played. He was incredible in that game. And he and Booker actually had a shocking amount of not playing off each other, but like it didn't feel like they were stepping on each other. Ott was already staggering them. He was making sure one was on the court at all times. But like, because they get their offense in different spots, Jalen Green has been between the 73rd and 80th percentile in rim attempts every year of his career. So like, that's the rim pressure we're talking about. We know he's an amazing offensive player. I think he's an underrated defender. I don't think he's as bad as people think he is. And I think if you get a coach like Jordan Ott to be like, dude, this is Devin Booker's team. Like, you're going to get your touches, but you got to do the other things. You got to shoot. Like, I think, and I know I'm probably overreacting to that limited time he played the Clippers game, but I was very, very impressed by how they were using him out of the gate and how Jalen Green was embracing this sort of role where he was not perfectly additive. I don't think a Jalen Green can ever be perfectly additive in the way like, an elite role player is. But I do think that he can be more additive in this exact situation, and he can be more synergistic with Booker and a bunch of role players than he could anywhere else. And I think that's where they get their source of rim pressure. When he returns, I actually don't think it's going to be one of those situations you and I have talked about where a good player returns to a situation, but actually they don't get better because he's taking away more than he's giving. I think he's going to be more additive than many might expect from Jalen Green. And I think he's going to play the best basketball of his career if his health permits it, if he's able to come back from this injury, have the athleticism, have the shot. He has all the tools, and I think the Suns have the surrounding pieces and the coaching to really elevate him in a way that he's never been elevated from a team impact standpoint.
I can't believe you just said that, man. I think that's an incredible answer. No, I think I think that's a great answer, actually. I think you're spot on. I love that answer because. So here's the thing. So the one part that I'll say what I disagree, and then I'll say what I agree with. The part that I disagree with is like the way that he played in that. So I didn't watch the full Clippers game, but I watched a bunch of it, and it felt more like a Jalen Green is hot and is shooting a bunch of threes game. I think he took like 12 or 13 threes in that game, which is cool. Like there's no problem with that. That's totally fine. But what you were describing as far as like his rim pressure, like I don't think people realize how good Jalen Green is at getting to the rim. Like he is like an elite rim shot creator. Like it's kind of crazy to say at 23 years old or however old he is, 22 or 23, he's already been an elite rim shot creator like in the league. And so he's only going to get better, and he does completely solve or add that missing piece to the puzzle that we're describing, because I see the Suns and I see what you described. I see their data. I see the way they play. I see Jordan Ott's sort of perspective on the game and how it ends up kind of coming through and how the Suns like attack defenses. And I really like it, but I'm like, there's something missing. Like that feels like it won't be able to be sustainable without this thing. And really that is the rim pressure component. I don't think you can get by, with this purely, perimeter to short mid-range attack. Obviously you have Devin Booker and you have a really great advantage because you have one of the best mid-range shooters in the modern NBA history. But I don't think it's like enough to get them where they're looking to go, but I do like the angle that you just shared about Jalen Green, because again, this guy gets to the rim at will. And when we're talking about not only having the spacers that they have, so guys that are already really, really good shooters to great shooters to elite shooters, when we're talking about like a Grayson Allen, now you have guys who are good to great to elite shooters who are all, like you mentioned, taking the most 3-point attempts per 75 of their careers. They're just jacking them up. So you have that threat. You have the threat of the quick pass to a shooter who's going to pull the trigger immediately. And so now that softens the interior. And so you have a guy in Jalen Green who's already able to create rim pressure out of thin air and can always get to the rim across his career from the time he's a teenager to the time when he first could potentially drink in the United States. Now you have that dynamic and you're able to add him into the mix. It'll make it that much easier. So now you have that missing piece. You interject that missing piece in the form of a player who is not quite a perfect player, has a lot of flaws, but really, really fills this role extremely well if he's able to be deployed in the right way. And I trust Jordan Ott to do that. So I think that's an incredible answer. So I love that.
And the thing is when we talk about the sort of dueling pianos thing, or the dueling banjos, dueling pianos. I just made up a.
I think that's a thing. I think that's a thing.
Is it? Okay.
Yeah.
Whatever.
In New York, at least.
Okay. Then when we talk about the dueling pianos thing, God, I hope it's a thing.
It is.
Usually in these situations, when you have two like primary initiators, two on-ball initiators, the reason it's so not like negative or harmful, but the reason it's so troubling, or the reason it's like hard to maximize both simultaneously, is because a lot of times these teams have tertiary creation where it's like, okay, well, these guys are already getting touches. So like, it's like you have this primary initiator and then you also have these secondary creators who have these are mouths to feed too. And so you're really running out of possessions where two high usage primary creators can do their thing. This Suns situation is such an extreme example of like Booker and Jalen Green can just take all the possessions, like not literally all of them, because like that just would never happen. But like Royce O'Neal and Grayson Allen, like they'll mess around a little bit, but they're not going to be super high usage starting pick and roll guys. They're going to attack closeouts. That's how they're going to be third creators, if anything. Like these are the definition of additive
Gillespie is the only one, and I think he's put into that role because they don't have Jalen Green. But yeah,
and he's fine. He's fine, and like I agree with you. But my point is like on the spectrum of roster constructions, where it's like, all right, we have all these mouths to feed. This is one of the extreme outliers on the low end, where I could see two guys who you would think stylistically are going to clash work together and not step on each other as much. And it doesn't hurt that they're both good shooters. So like, yes, both players would prefer to have the ball in their hands, but you have a situation where they both kind of can have the ball in their hands as much as they're used to having it. They're both capable off-ball shooters, and Booker's style of offense is three-pointers in mid-range. Jalen Green's is rim pressure and three-pointers. They operate in different spots. I think they're a strangely synergistic backcourt guard duo. And yeah, I'm just really excited to see this team at full strength with Mark Williams back when you have that offensive rebound and rim protection threat. Do I think they're going to win a championship? I apologize, Suns fans, if you made it this far. I don't think they're going to win a championship. But like I said at the top of this show, we're just a couple weeks in the regular season, and this team is so much better off than I ever thought they would be. They've got the coach. There's a path to moving forward with Devin Booker. And like Jalen Green was a lottery pick, a high lottery pick for a reason. He has a pedigree. He's going to be in the situation where he can thrive. Now they've got a couple of young guys they can be excited about. We haven't even said the name Ryan Dunn. They just took a center in the lottery that like they're not playing, but he's super young, Moak, and God, I hope I pronounced that right. Apologies if I didn't. He's super young and he's super talented. Like this is so far from the team that Bill Simmons was making fun of in the offseason and when he was like going at it with the owner.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. I think I like everything that you said, and I agree as far as Booker and Jalen Green's potential for a synergistic dynamic. I think it will depend on Jalen Green's level of buy-in. It'll depend on his role deployment and how well he's able to stick to that role deployment. So there's some contingencies there, but I do think philosophically, theoretically, it absolutely can work really well. And it's a team that if they hit on all cylinders, we're talking about a team who, like you talked about, this team takes the most wide open threes in the NBA per game. Like if you're generating that level of wide open threes and you have this many really, really good shooters and they're all putting them up at super high volume, and you're talking about a guy, again, like we said, in Jalen Green, who can get to the rim, and then a guy in Devin Booker who we haven't talked about him that much because he really hasn't played his best basketball. Like we know what Devin Booker is capable of, and he's been good this season, but he hasn't been Devin Booker good. So there's upside still there for Devin Booker as well. There's tons of meat on the bone there as well. So it's not even like they've hit what we might consider like their peak, or like, oh, Devin Booker's going off and carrying this team in an unsustainable way. So we're going to see some regression there, in my opinion, from Devin Booker, who is not 30 years old yet, still smack in the middle of his prime. And with the spacing that we're talking about here, the ball movement, the fundamental basketball that they play on both ends, where they're a very, very solid defense, I just need Mark Williams to be healthy, to be honest with you. I need Mark Williams to be healthy. I need Jalen Williams to be healthy. Jalen Green to be healthy. And I need Jalen Williams to be healthy as well, but not relevant to this conversation. And I think this is just a dangerous team. I think it's a slept on team. I think it's an explosive team, and I think it's a fun team. And the fact that they're really not getting talked about, I think, is just indicative of sort of a bias, of a preconceived notion. You talked about the Bill Simmons conversation and just like what people expected from this team coming in, and the type of players that they have, where it's like, Royce O'Neal, whatever, Grayson Allen, whatever, Dillon Brooks, whatever. It's like, no, not whatever. Perfect fits for the team that they're putting together. And people just underrate how valuable that is. So I'm excited to continue to watch them develop this season.
Yeah, that's just such a perfect cap on it. That's exactly why they're being underrated. It's just the combination of this preconceived notion that's been dug in with, well, these aren't like the type of players I like. Like, these aren't traditional stars. They only have one, maybe one all-star. Like, at a time when the league is more jam-packed with talent that there's ever been. The Vegas over-under before the season started was super low. How could this team be good? This is fake. And yeah, I think people just need to realize that this is a really well-coached team that fits together super well. And they're gonna make you earn it when you play. They're gonna shoot a lot of threes. They have a lot of really good shooters. They have a lot of high volume, high accuracy shooters. Like, they very well might have the most shooting talent in the NBA. It's insane how many good shooters they have on their team, and they can just put out there at all times.
Yeah, absolutely. And if you're a Suns fan who's made it this far into the video, definitely appreciate you watching. I would love for you to make fun of the way I tried to pronounce Colin Gillespie's name, and I still can't say it. Can you say it? Can you just say his name for me? I just am unable to say it. Like, I know how it's spelled, I know how it's said, I just can't do it. Can you say it?
Colin Gillespie?
There you go. Why can't I say Gillespie? It's weird. It's like a weird dyslexia. Anyway, I would love for you to make fun of the way I said it. That would be a great comment to receive from you. But honestly, again, if it's your first time here, we break down teams in this level of depth every week, typically multiple times a week, but at least once a week on Tuesday mornings. So please go ahead and give a subscribe, a like, a comment. We respond to every single comment we ever receive on this channel. That's one of the trademarks of our channel. We love to engage with people who want to engage with us. And we'll love to hear your perspectives, whether you agree or disagree, or think we were too high or too low, or think the Jalen Green thing doesn't make sense, or you're super, super excited to have Jalen Green. We'd just love to hear your perspectives. But really appreciate you joining. And for Geoff, I'm XJ, and this has been Hot Hand Theory.